All right, hello everybody, and welcome to Geopolitical Trends, where truth matters. Sorry, guys, for this little hiccup here. I ran into some technical issues. All of a sudden, I am running into technical issues from time to time. Even yesterday on the other platform, the sound was kind of, some of you informed me, it was working on my end. All of a sudden, anyway, ain't a big deal, and we're gonna keep it positive as always. So excited to be with you as always, because I am also gonna be talking about a specific topic, which to me it just begs the big question. The big question that we need to ask: How come? How come can we bash China and turn around and ask for its help? This to me, hypocrisy and bigotry of the highest order. That's basically what I'm going to be talking about. It's the upcoming visit, which I believe starts today or tomorrow. It started already, for the National Security Advisor, Jake Sullivan, someone who is incompetent for the position. Once you know how he got into the position to begin with, he's going to be going to China to hold talks with Mr. Wang Yi. Like I put on the thumbnail, it's way out of his league. So, but again, we're not going to be thinking about it from that perspective. We're going to be thinking about the big picture. What's really at the heart of this particular trip? So let me just say hi quickly to all of you. I know some of you have been here, guys, and I'm going to just have to pass through this quickly here this time around. I'm going to get into the topic because there is a lot to cover. So thank you all for being here first of all. So here are the questions rather. As to something I was thinking about last night before I wrote them out for you. So, why is Sullivan going to China? What is it for? That's what's the first one. Second, what is at the heart of the trip? What is really at the heart of this trip? And third, what is China's perception about this? Because here is the key that I need you to know. This particular trip was an invitation from China. So let's just be thinking strategically here. And the fourth question, which I already asked that one earlier, is there something else? And there is, which I intend to share with you based on my own understanding and analysis of what is going on. No. And of course, there is the additional question: why is the National Security Advisor instead of the Secretary of State? Well, we all know incompetent Tony Blinken ain't qualified to be holding talks with Mr. Wang Yi. But beside that, Tony Blinken is not the right person for the position. That becomes the question of right person for the job, rather. Becomes the question of why all of a sudden the administration decided to send the National Security Advisor. Those are worth asking, and what we're going to be delving deeper into this is exactly this, and answer it. And by the way, guys, just please prepare your questions for the end, because I'm going to do the entire session here on YouTube platform here, and maybe next time we'll go to the other location. But today we're going to stay here, so we're going to be doing here. And by the way, some of you informed me that they cannot access the other platform from their countries, whatever part they are in. So I was very, very, very surprised. All right, let's get into. Well, first of all, let me share a picture here with you about who is this incompetent National Security Advisor. So you need to understand at least a little bit of background. So Sullivan, he worked as an advisor way back. Advisor to whom? He was an advisor, or as a deputy assistant, during the Obama administration. Then after that, he was as the vice president's national security advisor. Well, who was the vice president during the Obama administration? None other than Uncle Joe. Now, both Sullivan and Tony Blinken, and I'm very familiar with this because I was there, so I kind of knew who's who. Tony Blinken was the national security advisor to the vice president at that time. And Jake was the deputy assistant to the president, to the vice president for the national security. So you can just see why they are in position they are in. Sort of they are not qualified, but because of the loyalty they've been with the vice president from way back, he pushed them through the ranks and so forth. Even though you and I know they are not qualified for this. So the Sullivan also served as the director of the policy planning, whatever that is, policy planning at the State Department. So it's not and he served also as the deputy chief of staff for Hillary Clinton. You get the idea. So, but all this is just to put it for you in perspective. So, because it's worth understanding. But here is the key, which we need to understand. At the invitation of and I get the article and I will share it with you, of the member of the political bureau of the CPC Central Committee and the director of the Central Commission for Foreign Affairs. No, this one is Mr. Wang Yi. The National Security Advisor was invited. So he's not going just willy-nilly here. China invited him, but also at the same time, if we only see the statements coming out of Washington regarding China, and yet he has the audacity to go, even though if it's invited. So, and that to me personally tells me the big picture. And by the way, his trip started today, from today all the way through the 29th. It's going to be for 2 days. So according to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in China, so Mr. Wang Yi will hold talks with Sullivan. Now, meaning Sullivan, is going to meet the President Xi? I didn't see any, and I don't think so. I will be surprised. What do you guys think? Let me have your answer here, because I want you to be part of the conversation. What do you think? Will he be holding a meeting with President Xi? Or should we word it this way? Will President Xi granted Sullivan audience? Yes or no? Let me just see your answer here. Hamad Sidi, you say no. Francis L, you say no. Army with Harmony, you say no. Mohammed Mazhar, you say no. Pablo Pina, you said most like she will meet that his character. I see your point. Eric Hatzel, you say no. Al Satalokin, you say nope. Taiwan still no. Farhad Azabi, you say yes. Diplomacy. Yeah, it's that's the whole reason why I wanted to ask you guys, because your opinion matters to me, first of all, and second, just to see to highlight to you the differences that exist, because for us here in the community will be a reflection of those outside thinking in terms of should President Xi granted him the audience or not. For me, I don't know. I am leaning more towards no, and he shouldn't. That's just my opinion, because the talks is going to be now with Mr. Wang Yi. So now, what is the conversation is going to be about? So far, the statements coming out of the White House indicated that it's going to be focused on U.S. China relations. Other sensitive issues, what are they? For example, Ukraine, that's going to come to mind. But here is the key. Jake Sullivan, because of the policies in Washington, is going to be addressing Taiwan issue, and let alone what just took place in two locations, Japan and Philippines. As a matter of fact, China now warns Philippines about allowing this U.S. military to do whatever, because it's moving into that direction. Japan also issued statements challenging China about getting into its airspace. Whatever Japanese think of, they just came up with. So to me personally, I look at all those, all of a sudden you're hearing issues coming out of here, coming out of there. That helps you put the picture together. Why is he going for? Even though they're saying because the U.S. presidential elections are coming. So if we are to think in those terms, are we talking about softening the blow with the Chinese, given what the rhetoric coming from both Kamala Harris and Trump? All of them now. China's going to become now the enemy. it serves the agenda. You know how it is. So is Sullivan in this case going to sort of tell the Chinese, hey, don't worry about the statements that's going to be coming out of Washington. It's just the election cycle and so forth. I don't think so. China should allow even that kind of conversation to be even issued. As a matter of fact, the Chinese issue the statements. They don't understand why the U.S. is keeping on this rhetoric and yet sending its national security advisor for talk. So now those talks usually will address many issues that I believe pertain to the U.S. China relations. But we all know where things are. We're not gonna let up on the progress of the Chinese. Yeah, this is what's at the heart of the tensions that exist between the U.S. and China. And that's why I asked you in the community when I posted for you the question, are we in a Cold War between China and the U.S.? And most of you, about 79%, and thank you for responding, by the way, most of you said yes. And I agree with you. It's because we want to stop or slow down this progress by any means, up to not engaging militarily. Because if we engage militarily, we all know what it means. First of all, we can fight. And second, we will be destroyed. Don't get into the hypes of what we have, 10 aircraft carriers and all that's nothing. Ain't gonna serve a thing. Look just what's going on in the Red Sea right now. Did NATO dare to go close by? No. And that's my idea for you, is to highlight to you the importance. Now, remember, it's this is the first time that the National Security Advisor is going to China. About the last one I remember was about 9 or 10 years, somewhere around that. That's the one I remember. So. Now, the argument is that Sullivan's trip to China is aimed at keeping the U.S.-China tensions in check, given on the background of the U.S. upcoming elections. It's common sense. But there is much more into that. And the way you think about it, I'm going to mention to you two particular aspects that I am very familiar with. One of them has to do with Myanmar. We all know China support the Myanmar government. Well, at the same time that Mr. Wang Yi went to Myanmar, and I have a picture for you guys, because I found it very surprising. Oh, I didn't put the picture here. Let me get it for you. Sorry, guys. It's kind of, today was one of those crazy days when I run to this issue electronically, and I kind of like, what the heck is going on? All of a sudden, I'm running to these kind of issues here. So here is I'm gonna share a picture with you here. Let me share a screen, and I'll talk to you about it. Because it didn't happen in a vacuum. We don't do it. There's always something. That's the whole reason for it. Why all of a sudden we send in here's I know it's not that clear, guys. Yeah, let me bring it up closer here. So this is Mr. Wang Yi meeting with Myanmar military chief Meng On Heng. And that was on August 14, about a week and a half ago. But here is what's important for you guys to understand. What's important about it is that at the same time that Mr. Wang Yi was in a delegation from Myanmar, the opposition was received in Washington as of 3 or 4 days ago. And that's, to me personally, start to put the two and two together and figured, okay, is Sullivan going to talk to the Chinese about, just keeping it a low profile regarding Myanmar, but also regarding Cambodia and Vietnam from an economic perspective. That became clear to me. And this is why Japanese went ahead with the issuance of, Chinese invading our airspace. The Philippines were also sort of start to speak loud, but China kind of send a warning to mainly Philippines, but not in Japan. So the third element has to do with economics, which worth understanding. And by the way, I will be addressing this more in detail with Carl Zapp. And this one has to do with three countries: China, Russia, and Iran, already agreed now and moving forward with the payment systems regarding oil. It's a done deal. So, because remember, we here in the US are short of oil. Second, China stopped buying our own oil, which means less revenue for us here. But who's getting the oil from us here? Europe, paying it at 10 times the price. So, and that begs the question, is why all of a sudden this incompetent advisor is going to China for, let alone holding a talk with Mr. Wang Yi. Because we know, well, do you think the Chinese is going to trust what we are saying? The answer is no. Simple as that. And that, for us, we need to put this in perspective for understanding what is the big picture of all this. Because it just... wow, I'm trying to open up a site, and it's preventing me from opening a site to share it with you. So very, very interesting. Let me see if I can do it differently. Yeah, it went differently here. So, but anyway, this is why I'm trying to understand here the idea of, even though the administration is saying, well, this has to do with sort of we preparing for the elections, is because both candidates, or both the incumbent and the candidate, both of them already formed the narrative regarding China. So like I always say, two faces of the same coin. There's nothing left here regarding our domestic policy. So, and the idea that China is moving forward economically, because here's the thing. Shortly after the trip, Washington said it was imposing sanctions on more than 400 individuals. This is pertaining to whomever is supporting Russia and Ukraine stuff, which is a hint to including Chinese companies. Well, here you are putting sanctions on a country that you are willing to talk with or ask help from. And this is why I put in the title, bashing China and yet asking for its help. Hypocrisy of the highest order. So, and this is where it's always, if you notice something about any time we have elections, okay, this is always in the background of any engagements we have with foreign officials regarding whatever comes next as far as American elections, political elections, or presidential elections, that is. So, but China moved on. So the thing is, we are not willing to accept the reality. This is why you're seeing now, for example, I'll give you just another example. You all heard what happened in Baluchistan, the attack that just took that just happened. Well, what was it? Yesterday, day before, in Baluchistan, and all it is aimed at one thing, is to create a wedge between Pakistan and China. Why? Because China is going ahead with upgrading the airports and infrastructure. We don't want that to happen. So what are we end up doing? Pushing the elements inside Baluchistan. And those elements are guided by foreign entities. It's not a secret. It's not a sensitive information. It's not. We all know how it works. And this is one of the idea of why all of a sudden you'll ask yourself, well, what is this incompetent national security advisor is going to be talking to Mr. Wang Yi about? We've already heard what the conversations are. When China wanted to step in to resolve the Ukrainian conflict, we said no. Oh, we don't even want to listen to what the Chinese had to offer. So, and this is why, in my opinion, because Chinese understood how weak the Secretary of State, so the administration here in the US decided, how about if we send the national security advisor? Just changing an idiot for another. Basically, that's what it is. And it's the reality and the truth. I don't shy away from not disclosing this. Then comes another aspect of something that is happening also behind the scenes. And this might surprise you. It's not surprise you. You probably read something about it, but I'm going to share it with you. Except that I will not put the link because I know what YouTube's going to do, because they did it to me before. So, and this one has to do with the Biden secret nuclear weapon strategy. Yes, aiming at whom? I'm going to share the quote. Biden approved the revisions to a classified nuclear strategic document that redirects Washington's deterrence strategy to focus on China's nuclear arsenal expansion for the first time. So, you doing this kind of tactics, and yet you are going to Beijing and saying, hey, would like to sit down and have a talk with you. Well, you can't even be honest with yourself as to what do you want to talk about, first of all, and second, are you really here to talk or just give us a lip service? Because that's what the Chinese will be thinking. It's so odd and weird that for us here in collective West, think that the Chinese are stupid. They can't understand the dynamics. When in reality, all they're doing is moving methodically, because that's a reflection of the culture. They don't do things loudly. In everything, even in discoveries. I mean, did you hear much about, for example, and I might do a video for you guys, and I'll put it for a poll, for a question for you if you want that, regarding the thorium nuclear plant that China now is going to finish, but it's going to be operational in 2025, next year. Do you hear much about it? No, they're staying quiet about that. Why? Because it's the culture of how Chinese operate, quietly and all that. And for us to be thinking in terms of all of a sudden Washington taking this change in its nuclear deterrence guidance to be targeting specifically China, that to me just poor policy. Poor policy. The timing of it is not right. And second, what are you trying to do? Intimidate the Chinese? And this, by the way, leads me to ask you one other question that one of our viewers put it in the comment on the community post. So interesting question. I wish I could have kept that one in. Interesting question. And the question is, here's for you guys, yes or no? Do you think China will come to Russia's aid in case NATO moves in? What do you guys think, in your opinion? Let me just see. Because I see it was an interesting question. Interesting question from one of our viewers in the community. And I couldn't, literally, I've been thinking about it ever since. Thinking about all the calculations Chinese will have to make before reaching that decision. So I like to see your feedback first before I move forward into the conversation. So in your opinion, I repeat the question, will China step in to assist Russia in case NATO moves in? In other words, if the conflict in Ukraine becomes a wider conflict. Karakulak, you say no. Muslim Revert, you say no. Karakulak, you say yes. I'm sorry. Edis Z, you say no. Munir Ali, you say no. Zanita Petrovska, you say no. Sarah Carroll, you say yes. David King, you say yes. Ramzi Abdurrahman, you say 100%. You know what? I am going to say yes to this. And here is why. And I'm going to give you my own assumption, my own assessment, analysis. And of course, I respect your opinion. That's the whole idea for why we're having conversation. Once again, just to highlight to you, to see the different of opinions is good, but for us to understand. So for me personally, the way I see it is that, yes, it will make more sense if China gets in. Why is this? Because even though you and I know NATO will dare to challenge Russia, because they don't have the capabilities. That's one. And second, if China doesn't do that, or will automatically, hypothetically, if things go south for Russia, that will mean NATO sites which are already aiming at China, that means China will become next. So in my personal opinion, the calculations within China will be strategically thinking here. We better take care of it right over there before it gets closer here. This is why NATO is moving into Asia. This is why you're seeing the statements coming out of Australia, Japan, Philippines, South Korea, moving into that direction. As a matter of fact, just find out yesterday that Australia now granted another location for U.S. military, in addition to what we already have, and the one that they are not disclosed, by the way. So, and this is why it makes sense to me, thinking strategically again. To Chinese, it makes perfect sense because they have the means to do it. They understand how messy it will get if they get involved. But on the other hand, they also understand that will be the end of it once for all for NATO, not for China. Because here is the wild card that I see in this scenario. It won't be just China alone. There will be two other countries. Can you guys guess which two countries are? And I bet you, they will, either behind the scenes or openly. Two other countries, hypothetically, if China gets in, they're gonna join they're gonna get in. Oh, I see it right here. Army with Harmony. Karakulak, you guys got it. Iran and North Korea. Mike my word on it. Francis Tango, India. No, India won't do it. India can't do it. Yeah. Belarus, no, Belarus won't do it. Belarus, because Belarus, the concern, will have its own border. Boone, you got it. North Korea. I see North Korea and Iran doing this one. Why Belarus won't do it? Because the tactical nukes are already on their soil for defense purposes. So which means if NATO, as a matter of fact, Lukashenko already mentioned, the head of president of Belarus, he said, if NATO troops getting into Ukraine, didn't say getting into Belarus, into Ukraine, those tactical nukes will be used. Simple as that. And this is why, to me, the idea to put this in perspective for you guys, when you have the head of the National Security Advisor going to meet with Mr. Wang Yi as a foreign affair, Sullivan is not qualified to even be talking about foreign global affairs, international. Yeah, he's National Security Advisor. Well, how did he acquire that position to begin with? You know, and we call spade a spade. Nothing against the guy. You know, if you're not qualified for the job, then you shouldn't be. Simple as that. We can have this kind of loyalty and favoritism and no. It doesn't cut it. Because you think about it this way, what you're seeing right now going on in with our presidential elections and all that stuff, that shows you an example of how bad the business is when you don't have qualified CEOs. Yeah, it's the same arguments I will make. You send in a national security to talk to Mr. Wang Yi about foreign affairs, you know. So, and to think in the big picture, And that is what I'm saying. There are more than meet the eye. When you read about, oh, because of the upcoming elections, the U.S. wants to reset the relations with China. It's nothing but hypes. The problem we have here, in at least in my country, I don't speak for others, in my country here, people cannot think beyond the headlines. This is why the mainstream media is, I mean, we all know how it is. I don't need to beat the dead horse. It's because we have never developed the critical thinking required for understanding the dynamics. You know, you look at no further than how our universities are. As a matter of fact, now they're saying that most foreign students are skipping U.S. institutions altogether. Yeah, so it's the reality. So when you think about, just to go back to my point about when I mentioned about Myanmar, now some say Myanmar, some say Burma, whatever term you want to use. So the relationships that exist between China and Myanmar versus us now inviting the opposition, it's because the fear we have, given the dynamics that's taking place in Cambodia and Vietnam economically. Even I heard as much as what's going on in Thailand, economically speaking. I'm not talking politically. I know the daughter of Sinawa, now she's the prime minister. She's very young, 37 years old. But that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about economics. Economics. The big major project that now Vietnam and Cambodia is going to benefit from. And Thailand, of course, will have that opportunity too, assuming it goes that direction. This is where our concern, from an economic perspective, given where the trajectory is headed regarding global economy. Like I mentioned earlier, and I will be addressing this with Carlza on Friday. So remember to join me on Friday at 8 p.m. my time here, so which will be about 9 or 10 a.m. in Bali. The idea that those three countries, Russia, Iran, and China, reached an agreement and set the payment that's going to bypass the SWIFT, bypass the dollar and everything. So to me, the ball is rolling, the economic ball that is rolling. And who's going to benefit the most in the world? It's going to be Asia. Why Asia? Because that's the center hub for global economy. Simple as that. And that is where the idea of thinking about, okay, well, we're going to have to sit down with the Chinese. Almost the way I look at it is giving them the lip service. What Chinese are smart enough to know. So, unlike the Europeans are dumb anyway. The leaders, not the people. So, and that's where I see the big picture of all this. And what prompts me to do this live stream for you is to highlight to you. Sometimes when you read, oh, U.S. and China are going to meet to reset the relationship. All this is a window dressing. No more, no less. You know, you saw my post that I did this morning in the community as far as what Boeing, you know, the airline, the manufacturer, the plane manufacturer, concerned about where China is going to be within a decade regarding the airline production. We're talking about cargo planes. It will surpass Boeing. And as a matter of fact, I saw some that one stat says that China will be in a position to build up to 460. So that leaves us with the question, does Boeing stand a chance, given also what just happened with certain airplanes? It's to me this is not a rocket science. It's clear. It's very clear. The landscape is clear if you know how to read it. And this is exactly what I do in this channel here. It's how to read that landscape. We are realizing that the shift in the global economy is going into other direction, headed by China. We are realizing the global financial system is moving into other direction to bypass the US dollar. We are realizing that the military strength of China is growing faster than we can anticipate, and we can compete with that. We are also realizing that, for example, when we imposed sanctions on chips, China went ahead and built its own. I just read one article where it says about China able to achieve about $91 billion in the chip industry. So now the CEO of ASML in Netherlands regretting his decision, or even the U.S. arguments that, yeah, we built some factory here and there. It's peanut in comparison to where the Chinese are. And I am going to be in Asia at some point, and I will see this stuff with my own eyes, because I already pinpoint certain locations I'm going to go to. It's, to me, it's the fact matters. The fact matters. This is not about putting my country down, as some say. Well, you don't like America. It's not. It's a weak argument. We beyond that. We beyond that. Is the exposure of the truth, because it matters. Simple as that. I've been saying, I've been calling, I've been arguing, I've been documenting through my own writing and all that stuff, that the shift is happening. The wealth is shifting from the west to the east. You better wake up, people, if you want to compete. You're going to wake up one day and realize say to yourself, oh, where is everybody? Because here's the thing I want you guys to know. There's a saying that goes like this. There are three types of people. When I say people, I'm also referring to countries. There are three types of people. There are those who make things happen. There are those who watch things happening. And the third category is those who wondered what happened. You got my point, right? Three categories. Those who make things happen, those who watch things happening, and those who wonder what happened. So, and that's exactly where I see this dynamics moving into that direction. So we can hold all the talks we want. Chinese will give the courtesy. It's not like Chinese going to say, oh, I ain't going to meet with you. That's not their culture. That's not how they approach things. I mean, look what Italy did. And yet they opened their doors to Giorgia Meloni, the fox. I call her the fox. Welcomed her there, whatever. It's almost like her in a subtle way of saying to Chinese, I am so sorry. I made a mistake. I made the wrong decision. I was pressured. Can you forgive me? Yeah, because it's Chinese culture. That's how they do things. Of course, if you break that trust, you're done. They're still going to hold the conversation with you, but they're going to keep you at arm's length because you can't be trusted anymore. And that's exactly what we've done. So send in Jake, or send in Secretary of State or Secretary of Defense, and all this is useless, because we cannot hold or keep our word. And like the saying goes, a man is as good as his word. Which is true. Which is true. And this is where I see this kind of development moving forward. And that's why I wanted to address this for you guys, to highlight the big picture. So the two main things I want you to understand as I wrap this up, and I'll answer some of your questions before I sign off. The two main things, one of them has to do with the Myanmar, okay? And the other one has to do with Cambodia and Vietnam, with China's economic ventures. Those are major. You know, I'm not even touching on Malaysia yet. I'm not even touching on Indonesia yet, which I will keep the conversation for Friday with my dear friend Kaza. So, and by the way, I'm very grateful. He's always available for you guys. This is for you, because usually he can be spending his time with his family and so forth, and he's willing to come on our show here and share the knowledge with us also. We're very, very grateful for that. So those conversations, I'm going to keep it for that. But for now, this is what I want you to understand, because you're going to be reading about it as now Jake Sullivan probably, he landed already there. So he's already there. So I'll be watching whether President Xi is going to grant him an audience or not. I am leaning more towards it's unlikely. But if President Xi does it, if he decided and his advisors advise him to do so, that's going to be just, what's the word? Saving face for the Americans, not for the Chinese. Chinese don't care, but they're going to just, hey, we granted you an opportunity to meet with the Chinese president. So even though I could be wrong, and we shall see. But again, two main things I need you to understand is the Myanmar aspects and the Cambodia, Vietnam, China economic ventures. Those are key to understand these dynamics. Of course, with our elections in about a month and a half or so, whatever, 2 months that is, we're all wondering how this is going to go. It's already, the narrative in Washington is geared towards, China's bad, China is the enemy, China is this, China is that, because that's how you rally the masses here, the masses that are ill-informed, which I feel sorry for. So, but again, what's the word? I forget the saying. You reap what you sow, I guess. But because with all what's going on, people are so confused and lost and all that stuff. Anyway, guys, let me take this opportunity. I want to say thank you to TC Kwan for supporting the channel, for Hosiris Great, as always, and to all other of you, most of you guys that's been supporting the channel. I am very, very grateful to you. And my Asia trip is because of you. I'm gonna be, and I will disclose all this in due time. So here is the link if you want to support that one. And if you want to go ahead and get a copy of my book, you go to this link here. And from now on, moving forward, guys, certain conversations, I'll be splitting them up between here and the other location. So, all right, let me take some questions from you guys. And before I sign off here, and thank you for being here. Oh, Boone, thank you very much, man, for your continued support. Boone, by the way, guys, has been with me on both channels since day one. I remember. Actually, I saved one of the communication from the first time. Boone, you send us a comment. I remember. So thank you so much. You wrote, China will assist Russia. The relationship is like lips and teeth. If the lips are gone, the teeth are exposed. That's how I think they are. What a great analogy, Boone. And I can just see it from a strategic perspective. It makes perfect sense. It makes perfect sense because with the combined capabilities of both China and Russia, we stand no chance. There is no NATO or no, there is nothing, And imagine if you add the other two. So spot on, and I couldn't agree more with your analogy. It's spot on. So Ninja, by the way, I want to say welcome to our community and thanks for becoming a YouTube member here. And the next person is Azazel. Thank you for becoming a member here on the channel. So, all right, let me take another question. And actually, Boone was statement. It wasn't a question yet. So let me scroll down here, and if I see one, I'll share it with all of us here. All right. And I will elaborate on, even on this one here, guys, I will elaborate a little bit more with Karlza when we get on Friday, because there's a lot to cover. And I want you guys to get as much information as possible, because where things are moving forward. And I care for our community here. At least from that intellectual aspects. I care of the community from a health-wise also. So, and I will be sharing some tips with you on Saturday when we do the community conversation. All right, let me see another question here. X, by the way, X, thank you very much for your continued support. X has been with me here I read all his or her comments and kind words. And so thank you for that. I just want to read this statement you wrote. Doc, Chinese taking all over industries in the world because they are super hardworking and they don't waste time for showing off and monkey businesses. You are absolutely correct. You're right. It's because also I'm aware, I've been doing my own homework. I've been aware of when China gets the surplus, the profit stuff from their own businesses and all that. What they did, They didn't go ahead and start wasting money, whatever. They reinvested the money domestically to improve the lives of the people. And this is how you gain the respect of the population. If a government wants to be respected, you're going to have to look after your own population. The respect is mutual. So I'm not saying about we have to adopt the Chinese system. It won't work for us here. What I'm saying is the strategies they are implementing are working. Wouldn't it make more sense to see for us here, given now the poverty level is going up, the infrastructure is crumbling, and you got the rest, you got the idea. So I couldn't agree more with you guys, X. They're spending money in the right aspect. So all right, let me see another question. This is DW Ling Yang. You said, may you live in an interesting time. I was told that in Chinese culture, they don't say this much, do they? Does anybody know, guys? That's what I was told. So I don't know. I was informed about it. So Rabia Burak, you're right. You reap what you sow. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. FLU, I'm not gonna read this, but you guys can read it. I agree with you. You know, it's shameful, man. It's really shameful. So because to me that means only one thing, no other. One, you want to keep the masses in the dark. Simple as that. You don't want them to be informed. Yeah. So that's just the way I see it. Farhad Razavi, will U.S. attack Iran after the strike? No. A good question, Farhad, and I see the logic of it. And a lot of people are saying no, whether Iran is scared of the U.S. reaction. No. We are, as a matter of fact, behind closed doors trying to convince Iran not to strike at Israel. As a matter of fact, the U.S. disclosed, and this is not going public, the U.S. disclosed that Iran's operation is going to be massive. This is the U.S. saying it. So, and could it be also that's I don't see that happening. It's because there will be so many moving out parts. Iran's not going to be alone, by the way. Let me just tell you this. Francis Tango, the next one, not this week. I will, if I do something on the other location, the other channel on Thursday, the big channel here on YouTube. But the other one, it will be, that starts with an R. That will be on next week or Friday. I have not decided yet. We'll see. Thunderbolt, good question. What do you think it will be, the NATO-AUKUS strategy, if a war broke out between China and Taiwan? Well, first of all, there will be no war between Taiwan and China. That's I can tell you this. The way it's gonna be, it will be like of what's going on in Ukraine. But it won't happen because we know what's at stake. And Taiwanese people do not want that. We're going to have to make sure, guys, what we hear media saying versus what it is. Okay? Two opposite ends. Taiwanese people, they consider themselves part of the motherland. Just they live on another location. They don't want war. And second, to those who argue China's going to invade Taiwan, how can China invade itself? That just doesn't make any sense to me. So, but the narrative in the West is that China, we use the war anytime we talk about Taiwan and China. The term or the word war is always connected to this. But it won't be. And yeah, NATO and AUKUS, yeah, they're going to play a role hypothetically into all this. So is North Korea, so is Russia, and maybe Iran on the other side. And you don't know what it means. The second thing, China will not need all that. China is capable of handling by itself. If you wanted to walk into Taiwan, that ain't gonna be hard. But China's not gonna do it. That's not them. That's not how the culture is. That's not Taiwan part of China. Why will they even do that? They won't. So, but we are pushing that narrative into that direction. So I don't see that. But AUKUS, yes, AUKUS and NATO, yeah, they will play a role into that to a degree. Oh, Boone, thank you for clarifying this. That lips and teeth is a saying in Chinese. It's not originally mine. I thought it was yours. But that's, well, it makes sense. This is part of the wisdom. And I read a few things from the old history of China. There are some saying when it's translated. Now, the only question I had is whether that translation was accurate or not. So thank you for sharing this. Now it makes sense. Now it makes sense. Yanas, no, not today. Not today. If I do that, usually I will only do about 15-20 minutes here, then go to the other. And by the way, a lot of people want in onto the other, but I will always let you know ahead of time when I do this one here that I will be on the other location. Hong Luang, let me take this one. Not sure how heavy interested you are on the following, but Western gaming journalism have slandered a Chinese triple A game out of a day back. What's your intake? No, I'm not aware of this one here, and for simple reason. I tell you guys, I do not read much from here in the US, and if I read something, it will have to be pertain to international affairs, and I have to check and recheck the information from different sources to see the accuracy. Because I know if I see the name of someone who's writing, and I happen to know the names by now, when you work for over a decade, 15 years or so in DC, you know who's who and who's writing what and on whose behalf, on which agenda that is. So no, I'm not aware of this one here. All right, I'll take one last question, guys, and I will sign off because I gotta go prepare some other stuff for you for Friday. All right, well, last question. Who's this lucky person? Will have last question here. I'm scrolling down here, guys, to see. And by the way, to those saw video of Bush talking about getting Ukraine into NATO. Yeah. Okay. All right. Let me see. Last question from Khadija. Good to see you. Dr. O, could you please speak about what is going on in Burkina Faso someday soon? Well, believe it or not, I came across something from overseas pertaining to that. And I was really thinking about it, and I might end up doing it on a Friday, given the decision that Ibrahim Traore just made. Very interesting, to the point that now the French president is furious. Emmanuel Macron, was like, go take a hike, Macron. Who cares? So yeah, I will address that one because there are some key things I need you guys to know. I will do that. So, all right, guys. Well, I hope you find this very informative as always, and thank you so much for your continued support. And I'm very, very grateful. As always, remember, geopolitics impacts your daily life in more ways than one. Till next time, guys. Bye-bye.